We're going to focus today on it's the affirmation that came to me to focus on for this entire year. Last October when I went down to Tarpon Springs, Florida with Jane Elizabeth Hart. And in this retreat that we went through, we came up with an affirmation to meditate on all year, and I spent at least an hour a day, sometimes two, meditating on this or a similar affirmation, which is, I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now. Together? I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now. Now, I lighten up. What do you want? It's Palm Sunday. It's that energetic moving into Jerusalem, moving into that stream of consciousness. I let go. It's Good Friday. What's in the way? It's letting go of all the limitations, everything that comes up. And I move in the now is the fulfillment, is that third force, that Easter energy. What are you going to do about it? So it's first force, second force, third force. It is the celebration of I lighten up, I let go, and then I move into the now. And so we're going to celebrate that together. But to prepare for it, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, which I'm going to read the Palm Sunday experience. You know, Palm Sunday, I don't know, when you were a kid, did they hand you in your church little palm fronds? How many people did that happen to? You know, and in Illinois, when they do that, they give you a little palm leaf this big. But I lived in California, so they gave us an entire palm frond because they were just lying on the ground, right? So we all would wave these things around and hit each other with them. But what the heck is it? What is Palm Sunday? It is the energizing of our dreams. It is the fulfillment of our hearts. It is the putting forth of that positive energy. And this is what this story is about. It's about, of course, what happened 2,000 years ago, but it's most importantly, the movement in consciousness that is activated by your desire that is Palm Sunday. So, the Passover was at hand, and many went up to Jerusalem out of the country before that Passover to wash themselves. They sought therefore for Jesus, and they spoke to each other as they stood in the temple. And they asked, what do you think? Do you think he's going to come to this feast? And the reason why they asked that is because the chief priests and the Pharisees had told them that if anybody knew where Jesus was, tell them that they might take him and arrest him. The common people of the Jews learned that he was in Bethany, and they came not just for Jesus' sake, but also so that they may see Lazarus, who he raised from the dead. For the chief priests took counsel that they might put Lazarus also to death. Because of him, many of them went and believed in Jesus. And then it begins. Then they began to move into Jerusalem, passing Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. And he sent two of his disciples and said, go into that village that's across from you, and right away when you get in there, you're going to find a donkey tied upon which no man had ever ridden. Loose him and bring him here. And if anyone says to you, why are you doing this? Just say, the Lord needs him, and right away they will send him here. And so they went away, they found the donkey tied in a doorway out in the open street, and they loosed him. And certain of them who were there said to them, what are you doing loosing this colt? And they said to them, just as Jesus told them to, so they let them go. And they brought the donkey to Jesus and cast on him the garments, and he sat upon them. The next day, a great multitude had come to the feast, and they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took the branches of the palm trees and went forth to meet him, and cried out, save us, O bless the one who is coming in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. And Jesus, having found that young donkey, sat upon it, as it's written, fear not, daughter of Zion. Look, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt. Now he was drawing close to the descent of the Mount of Olives. And the whole multitude of the disciples began to shout out, rejoicing and praising God in a loud voice for all of the mighty works that they had been seeing, saying, blessed is the King that comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven, glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from the multitude said to him, Master, you tell your people to shut up. And he said, I'm telling you, if I tell them to hold their peace, these stones are going to start screaming it out. He was coming into Jerusalem. All the city was stirred, and they said, who is this? And the multitude said, this is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee. And the little children entered into the temple, crying, save us, O Son of David. And the people were moved with indignation, saying to him, do you hear what these little children are saying? And Jesus said to him, haven't you read, out of the mouths of babes and tiny children you will have perfected praise? I'm sharing all this with you because it sets the tone. This is an energy that was set up in space and time 2,000 years ago, and we're continuing to build upon it. For this whole 2 millennia of energy, we can tap into it and experience it and use it to move our souls and our consciousness forward. Anything that we want in life, anything that we desire, really has a deeper significance and meaning for soul growth. And soul growth is what it's about. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of out there right now. The energy of Holy Week is a powerful energy. Don't you agree? I mean, if you want to tap into it, you can really ride the wave of that energy. And that energy can take you to some wonderful places of spiritual fulfillment. But we got to let go of the idea that the purpose of life is to get stuff, is to get outcomes, is to have things the way you want them. And I know we watch the news and we say, oh, I want to have this outcome. And look at the wonderful things that happened yesterday. The children coming forth, the teenagers, and regardless of your opinions of things, there's such a great power that takes place in consciousness when people direct their faith and direct their energy. That's what we're celebrating here, is faith. Palm Sunday is about faith, and Good Friday is about flexibility, and Easter is about fulfillment. But this is where we put forth that faith. But you know, what's more important with the events of yesterday and those teenagers is not that they get the outcome that they wanted. It's the energy and the consciousness that they're moving. And my prayer when I'm dealing with the world circumstances and the things that I don't like in the world is always, God, reveal what needs to be revealed and heal what needs to be healed. Together? God, reveal what needs to be revealed and heal what needs to be healed. Heal what needs to be healed. That means it's not always what we have in mind. The process that we need to get from point A to point B, as I often say, goes through point P, Q, X, and R. It's not a direct line. And this process that we're going through in our own lives is one of what do you want, what's in the way, and what are you going to do about it. There's 3 balloons up there, which that's the biggest I could get my computer to print. So I'm not a high-tech guy, but what do you want? That's Palm Sunday. What's in the way? That's Good Friday. And what are you going to do about it? That's Easter. But here's another analogy for you. It's Uncle Johnny's sluice box. I share this every few years because it's really something that came to me in meditation one time when I was going through a whole lot of experiences in life. And what came to me was, what you want out of this is a refined gold that's left at the end. It's not the experience of all the ore that you're going to have to go through to find that gold. You see, Uncle Johnny, my dad's Uncle Johnny, was in the gold country of California, where my ancestors are from. And my dad's uncle was the bootlegger up in that area, and he was occasionally arrested during Prohibition and taken before the Justice of the Peace, which was his brother. After a stern warning, they let him go. Now, he had another business when that wasn't going so well, and they shut him down on the side. When he couldn't run his still, he would go up into the fast-rushing creeks with something called a sluice box, and he would mine for gold. Now, anybody here, you know what a sluice box is? You know, a sluice box? Some people know what it is. In California, they pretty much know what it is. I used to play with one because Uncle Johnny's sluice box was in our basement as I was growing up, and it's this wooden box with mesh in the bottom, and you're supposed to shovel the ore, the dirt, into the sluice box, and then let the rushing waters of a creek or a river wash away what? All the ore, all the dirt, all the lighter stuff, and what does it leave in the bottom? The refined gold. The experiences in your life lead to the refined gold of your spiritual growth. The experiences in your life are just the ore, but we get so attached to it. We say, oh, there's so much of this wonderful ore. I just think I'm just so in love with this ore of life. Hang in there with me with this, okay? But we get attached to it. We think that's it. Oh, I've got so much of this wonderful stuff. We just keep shoveling it, but it's not about that. It's about the process of washing away, and what's left is the refined gold of what? Spiritual growth. You know, there was a study done at Cal State Fullerton. No, it was at Kansas State. And in this study, they found that the more traumatic the childhood experience, the more compassion and empathy the person had. Unmeasurable tests on empathy. The more traumatic, the more empathy. And there was another study at Cal State Fullerton that showed when they asked people to identify the worst experience of their lives, and then they asked them questions about it, they found that
9 out of 10 of them, out of that experience, had an improved outlook on life, and more said that they now framed that experience in a positive than a negative light, and than those who said it was negative. Now, what is that about? That is that understanding. That is, we talk about this. We say, it's only a few people who have these great overcomings. We make made-for-TV movies about them. We read about them in Chicken Soup for the Soul. We think, isn't it wonderful, these exceptional people who overcome great odds to make overcomings in their lives. And the truth is, the studies show that it's not an exception. It's the norm. It's in you. It's in me. Together, it's in me. And what's in you? That refined gold that is there, left in the bottom of the sluice box. When you get past looking at all the dirt that's there, all the stuff that's there, and you let the waters wash it. And this is the Holy Week experience. Taking that sluice box and putting the ore in it is certainly the Palm Sunday experience. And then the washing away of everything unlike it, unlike that gold, is the Good Friday experience. And what is the Easter experience? It's the gold that's at the bottom of it. Easter experience. So we're going to talk about Easter, but I always like to tell my bad Easter joke. The Catholic priest talking to the Sunday school kids. You probably heard it. I don't know. They laughed at 9. Maybe you'll laugh. But they were talking to the Sunday school kids. And he asked him, what's Easter about? One of them said, well, that's when the bunny comes and leaves me candy and a present. And he said, no, that's not quite it. That happens at home, but anybody else want it? Somebody raised their hand and they said, it's when I go to the mall and I sit in the lap of the Easter bunny and he asks me what I want for Easter. And he says, that's not quite it. And then little Johnny raised his hand. He's always afraid to ask Johnny, because Johnny was a kind of a pill. But he said, okay, well, what's your take on Easter? And he said, that's when our Savior rose from the dead and rolled away the stone and came out into the sunlight. He said, oh, that's wonderful. Good answer, Johnny. And then when he sees the shadow, he goes back in. It's 6 more weeks of winter. It's the delivery. Okay, so you've heard it before, right? But the experience of Palm Sunday leads to the overcoming of Easter. And it's not about things in your life. It's about the spiritual essence of your life. It's about the spiritual essence. But we all have things that we're working toward in our lives, and we have to deal with them flexibly. This Easter week experience is faith, flexibility, and fulfillment. But you've got to be flexible about it. My kids are both dealing with college issues. My son is looking for a college. He's looking around for it. And my daughter is now in a college that didn't quite do what they said they were going to do, or didn't quite fulfill what said they were going to do. But I had the most wonderful conversation with her, because when she was there and was dealing with this, she said, I know why this is happening. I said, why? Because if it just all came to me, the way I wanted it, I wouldn't appreciate it. I wouldn't really, I would just expect this is just the way it's going to happen. This is making me stronger. This is a great overcoming. And she was willing to engage with it. Now, how often do we, when we have disappointments in life and things don't turn out quite the way we want, do we do that? My mentor, Dr. Mary Allen, used to have a process called the Good Intentions process, and 1/4 of her patients, she was a psychiatrist, would get this process because she would discern that they were prepared for it, they were spiritually advanced enough for it. And she would ask them to ask themselves in a moment of quiet, for what good intention did my soul choose this experience in life? Wow. For what good intention did my soul choose this experience in life? And they would come up with the most fantastic possibilities in their lives. When things don't quite work out in the way that you had in mind, well, what about 2,000 years ago? What about the people who were there on Palm Sunday? And I read the story of Palm Sunday and how happy they were, and how they were dancing in the streets. And it's because they had an expectation in their minds. And what the people expected was a warrior priest king was going to come and into Jerusalem and conquer Jerusalem and then take over, and then from that place, from that base, that small nation would then take over and conquer the world. That's what the literal prophecy said. And they really expected it, and they thought, this is just the beginning. Why, this guy's unstoppable. We're going to be able to have this experience. And that's not what happened. But what would it do the world? What good would it do the world if he had come in and they'd had one more, even an excellent ruler in the world? There's lots of rulers. He came in to triumph over something that's much, much deeper, and that is human limitation, so that we will move into that next consciousness of humankind. We are evolving souls. You are an evolving soul, and your purpose is not to have a tangible outcome, although those are all good things, but to have something deeper, the refined gold of human experience. So where in your life, do you have a desire in your heart that Palm Sunday represents? What is that desire? Is it for something pleasurable, or is it for something that has a deeper joy, fulfillment, and satisfaction? You know, they did I saw a picture of the brain activity of pleasure versus joy-filled satisfaction, the kind of joyous happiness. Pleasure and true happiness. And it's interesting, pleasure is just, the lower brain just goes like this, little tiny lines in the lower brain. But true happiness connects everything in the brain. And you know the difference between an addictive behavior that gives you pleasure, that doesn't necessarily fulfill you, and that deeper soul satisfaction. What do you want out of life? What do you want out of life? You want soul satisfaction. The whole purpose of Holy Week is to move you out of that limitation, and those limitations that you let go of, letting go of all those expectations, all those unfulfilled desires, and moving with flexibility into the fulfillment of your heart's desire. That something, that deeper awareness, that's what we're celebrating on Holy Week. So, what do you want? What's in the way? What are you going to do about it? Or, lighten up, let go, and move in the now. I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now. Together? I lighten up, I let go, and I move in the now. I experienced this when it brought me into ministry 20 years earlier. Sometimes you've got to let go of your lesser good for the greater good, and sometimes your greater good doesn't look like good at all to you at first. I shared last week a little bit of this story, but there was more to it. When a friend of mine, I was just kind of coasting through life. I dropped out of college 7 units from getting my bachelor's degree because I was just kind of in a, I was so spiritual, I was no earthly good, let me put it that way. And I knew someday maybe I'd become a unity minister, but I was just kind of bopping through life, and it was the 70s, and I was in a meditation group, and la 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 la. And then all at once everything fell apart. I told you my meditation group fell apart and all these different things, but a friend of mine during that time invited me to go for the firefighters, I guess you call it the test. And they had physical tests and the written test. He just wanted company, and I had no interest in being a firefighter. It's the last thing on earth I was interested in being. But I kept him company. I went there that day. I had the flu that day, so I barely was able to pass the test. I made the weight requirement by 1 pound. I barely could do the things they asked me to do, and then I had to do the written test. But little did I know, the written test was all based on the identification of hardware tools. And I grew up in a hardware store. So I had the 6th highest of 500 people, because all it was identifying tools. Does that have to do with firefighting? I don't know. But I aced the test, so they brought me in for the oral exam, and I ended up going into firefighter training school. Now, I was not expecting that at all, but I found out that it was a union job that paid really well, and you got 3 days off for every day you worked, and I could become a freelance writer for 20 years, and then I could retire, and I'd have all this money and a full retirement, and I could go into ministerial school, and I'd just be cruising. You ever had a plan like that? It looks really good on paper. So I showed up, and I did all of their tests. I passed every test they had. I did everything they asked me to do, and I flunked out faster than anybody in the history of Contra Costa County in California. Why did that happen? Well, the guy, they told me in the exit interview, you know, it isn't that you couldn't do what we asked you to do, but, well, you don't really enjoy this too much, do you? I said, no, I really don't. They said, well, it shows, and we're worried that the good citizens of our county will lose confidence in the Contra Costa County Fire Department if they see you out there fighting fires. So I was very disappointed. My plan, this was my plan. This was like the plan of the people in Jerusalem. You have an idea. It's the way it's going to be. You feel so good about it. And you're going to will its way into being. But no, you've got to be willing to go through what? The Good Friday experience, which means letting go of the limitations. And so what I did instead, I've shared the story about saying help and getting that feeling in my heart. I've shared that story, but how it caused me to start to look at, I'm going to get my degree. I went back, finished the 7 units. I loved it. You know, going back to school after you've been out, you really appreciate going to school, and I loved it. And then I applied to ministerial school. They let me in, and I ended up being a minister 19 years ahead of when I had planned. And now, what good would it have done me if I had all this cushy time off and done all this freelance writing and to had everything just all the way I wanted it? But what really was needed was my soul wanted to minister and to do this work. Now, there's a life plan for you, and I think we got to be careful about this idea of the life plan. The life plan is not something that's written in stone. It's not necessarily etched in concrete. It's a living thing, and it's a living thing in your soul. But what it's about is not so much circumstances and outcomes, but what? The refined gold that is left when you move through the experiences of life with grace and joy and with an engagement in your heart. And what do you end up with? You end up with spiritual growth. So, my prayer, and this is a tough one, but some people are ready for this. I don't know. Ask yourself, am I ready for this? Okay. My prayer is for the God realization of my soul, and only those experiences that support that God realization. That's my prayer. And that changes everything. Are you willing to look at your life and say, what is my desire in my heart? Is it for this thing or this outcome? That's a good start. It's like my kids have an idea. They got to figure out what they want to start out doing. But there's always something that moves through you that you've got to let go of and move with. Remember, it's that, what do you want? You've got to lighten up. You've got to set your intention. You've got to have that first force. We call that affirmation. It's where you set your goal, you set your intention. It's okay to do that. But then there's what's in the way. That's the second force, and that is that denial phase. It's letting go of, releasing everything that's unlike the desire of our heart, even things we didn't even know might be in the way, and being willing to let that go and facing it. That's why my prayer is, God, I pray every day to have revealed what needs to be revealed and heal what needs to be healed. In the world that we see today, what good would it do us if we just get the outcomes that we want with no growth? If people didn't face their issues, if we didn't bring to the surface these things that are so disturbing to us, that we read about every day, if they didn't come up to the surface so that we can look at them and own them and take responsibility for them and move with them and move through them. So it's not easy. Good Friday's not easy. But you know, I've gone into churches, Unity churches as a minister when I get there, and they don't have Good Friday services. You know why? I had one church, people said to me, we don't believe in Good Friday. We don't believe in Good Friday. They don't believe in the process because it's just too difficult. But you know what? You are spiritual warriors, and you're willing to move through it. And you are willing to come out the other side of it. You're willing to not just stay there and worship the ore in the sluice box, but to let the waters move through it and to end up with the refined gold. Yes, that's what your purpose is. And so then you stop looking at the situations in your life and judging your life accordingly and saying, well, this circumstance and that person and that opinion defines me. No, none of that defines you. You are made of greater stuff than that. And the way that you find that deeper essence is to go through this. What's in the way? And then what are you going to do about it? That is that understanding that you are the expression of God, and it's that third force, it's the synthesis, it's what happens when you're willing to take a step and then let go of everything unlike that step. And it's a very deep and powerful experience when we open up to that essence of us. Because the I am that is within you, that I am is more than equal to any of the circumstances in your life. And you engage with it, and then it'll move you through this process. So let's just take a moment. And there may be something in your life that you're grappling with or dealing with, but regardless, just take that desire in your heart and move it up to its highest possibility. Take whatever is the desire of your soul and say, I move this up to its highest possibility. I move this up to its maximum potential for good. I move this up into divine order. Thank you, God, for a divine idea and the perfect outcome. I lift this up to its highest possibility. And I let go. I let go. As I lighten up, then I let go. I let go of everything that's unlike the desire of my heart for the highest good for all, the growth, the soul satisfaction, the fulfillment of my heart. I let it all go, and I'm willing. Let that which needs to be healed be healed. Let that which needs to be revealed be revealed. And I move in the now, which is the kingdom of heaven, the spiritual essence of me, is in me, and I am moving in the now. And I am willing. I'm willing to move in this now moment in a beautiful way. I am so grateful for the great opportunities for my soul to grow. And I am a willing spirit. I am a willing soul. This touches my heart and opens me up, gives me peace. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. So it is. Oh, and now we take a nice deep breath and we let go into this now moment. And we know that we're tapping into the energy of this week. That first step, Palm Sunday, is that lightening up and energizing through the desire of our heart. God, more than anything, I want to grow and to know and to be. I want to experience the joy of my heart. I want to experience my connectedness with all other souls. This is my prayer, my desire, my first step. I desire to have every experience in my life contribute to the God realization in my soul. What I want more than anything is to have every experience of my life support that spiritual step that I'm taking, that growth that's there for my soul that truly gives me satisfaction and peace of mind and purpose of being. I lighten up and I feel myself grow lighter as I move gently into my heart. And as I set aside everything and I open my hands, I move into that lightening up energy that says, I am that I am. The being that I am is enough. That which is in me is greater than any of the circumstances in my life. And I align and attune myself with my heart. And in my heart is all knowledge, all peace, all joy and satisfaction. I take a moment and rest in this peace. I let go. I take a breath and I let go. I move into that second stage, that releasing of all limitation, knowing that whatever comes into my life is for my higher good. It comes to pass. I'm moving through and I don't remain stuck in it. I move through it. And I receive the bounty of blessings from moving through this experience of lightening up and letting go. Letting go. Letting go of all personal control. Letting go of all judgment. I feel so much freer as I let go. I feel such a deep purpose and peace as I let go. As I affirm silently, I let go. I just let go. this now moment. I move in the now. The now is in me, and I move in the now. That which is what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven is within me, around me. It's my shared experience with all other souls. And as I once again tap into my heart and touch in there, I feel connected. I feel the joy that comes from moving in the now. And this is the Easter phase, the third phase, the fulfillment of my heart's desire for growth and joy and satisfaction and peace. Oh, I lighten up. I let go. And I move into this now moment of peace. I take a moment. I take this moment. Thank you, God. Thank you that I am engaged with the process of my soul's evolution and growth, and I am grateful. I am so grateful. And thank you. And so
Let's take our offerings, and our offering statement is, I give with a light heart, and I receive in joy. Together, I give with a light heart, and I receive in joy. Silently. And again aloud together. I give with a light heart, and I receive in joy. And so it is.